What do you know about war? They'll tell you it's about patriotism, democracy, or some shit about the other guy hating our freedom. But you want to know what it's really about? What do you see? A kid from Arkansas doing his patriotic duty to defend his country? I see a helmet, fire-retardant gloves, body armor, and an M16. I see $17,500. That's what it costs to outfit one American soldier. Over 2 million soldiers fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. It costs the American taxpayer $4.5 billion each year just to pay the air conditioning bills for those wars. And that's what war is really about. War is an economy. Anybody who tells you otherwise is either in on it or stupid.
Breaking news. In a major escalation in tensions between the U.S. and Iran, the top Iranian general has been killed in an airstrike while leaving the Baghdad airport,
potentially bringing this country to the brink of an all-out war.
Now, when most people hear dire messages like this on TV, they get pretty frightened. But you and I know different. If this escalates to another major war in the Middle East, or hell, maybe even World War III, this is music to your ears.
That's what I'm fucking talking about! That's real money, motherfucker!
So put your morals aside, because this is how to sell the shovels of World War III. At the height of the Iraq invasion in 2003, the US had around 150,000 soldiers deployed. And the US government doesn't just have to outfit all these soldiers with $17,500 of equipment each. No. If they want to win the war and not look like complete idiots on the international stage, they also have to provide food, housing, water, plumbing, transportation, and everything in between, which becomes a logistical nightmare. And here's the bigger problem. The government doesn't manufacture or provide any of the stuff. So that means at some point in the process, these products and services have to exchange hands with everyday citizens like you and I. And the way the government lets citizens and companies provide these products and services is through US government contracts. And when it was all said and done, the US spent nearly $5 trillion on the war.
Holy shit.
$5 trillion. All that money had to go to somebody, but who? Sure, you have the giant companies that secure the big defense contracts like Boeing, Lockheed, Halliburton, and unless you have the means of manufacturing $100 million fighter jets, you pretty much have a 0% chance of competing with them. So if we go into World War III, how are you supposed to make money then? See, the downside of these behemoth defense contractors is that when the US needs small orders of a few thousand guns here, a few pallets of ammo there, these giant companies aren't gonna waste their time with it. Why waste your time for a few thousand to a few $1 million in profit when you can build entire military bases for billions of dollars? Why waste the time and resources of your company for these small contracts when you have an 8-figure salary to maintain? And for two 20-year-olds in Miami named David and Ephraim, this is what they took advantage of. Enter war dogs. War dogs are the small guys like you and I. When there are government contracts that the big boys deem too small and not worth their time, we pick up the scraps, offer a competitive bid, fulfill the contract at all costs, and make a very respectable profit.
David, your 30% is $180,000. Holy f***ing shit.
A profit that Boeing and Lockheed would laugh at, but gives us a pretty nice lifestyle. All of this, mind you, without ever setting foot on the battlefield. And within David and Ephraim's first year of doing business together, they landed over 100 of those gold standard US contracts, which totaled up to over $10 million.
It's fucking genius.
And for two 20-year-olds, their gun running business was going pretty well.
Okay.
And by 2007, the US were desperate to supply their allied forces in Afghanistan with ammo, so David and Ephraim won a contract that would put all their previous ones to shame. $298 million. Their secret? They were able to source old, substandard, unserviceable Chinese-made ammunition sitting in Albania from the Cold War era. The only problem was the US had an arms embargo against China, so fulfilling a US contract with Chinese ammo was very illegal. But that didn't stop our very entrepreneurial war dogs. So instead of just giving up, they decided to repackage the ammo so that no one would suspect it came from China.
That sounds illegal.
And they almost got away with it too if it wasn't for that bad press going around about two 20-year-olds letting a huge military contract by heavily underbidding their competitors. Darn. In the end, Ephraim was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison and David to 7 months of house arrest and 14 months of probation. Now the important thing to take away from the story is what? It's that war profiteering can be very unethical. I'm kidding. Here's what you really have to take away. Number 1, the military-industrial complex and US government contracts can be very profitable for the little guys, the war dogs. Number 2, as long as there's money to be made, one can only assume that there will most likely be more wars in the future to profit from.
Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'll be out of a job with peace.
So what I'm trying to say is that you're in a pretty safe industry. Number 3, the bigger the war, the more desperate the government. The more bloodshed, the more money there is to be made. And number 4, the most important thing to take away from David and Ephraim's experience, to not get caught. So let's say World War III comes around the corner. What are the actual steps for you to become a war dog and take a very small but respectable piece of that military-industrial complex pie? Now David and Ephraim's $300 million contract may sound like a lot of money, but here's the thing, that $300 million contract accounted for less than 0.006% on what the US government spent on wars since 2001. So yeah, there's plenty of contracts to go around for us war dogs. Let's say the army needs some extra 9mm ammo or the navy needs some grenade launchers. They'll post what's basically a Craigslist ad on a central website called beta.sam.gov. And from there, anyone can visit this website, see what contracts are available, and make a bid with how much they want to charge for. Those two examples that I just gave happen to be actual contracts that you can pull up right now. In fact, this website has nearly 100,000 contracts of all shapes and sizes from pretty much every department of the government on there right now. When World War III comes around, this is your gold mine. This is the website that you need to scour day and night for those special war dog opportunities to make money. And when you find that perfect contract that fits your criteria of what you can fulfill, it's time to place a bid. Now it's time to do some digging. This is where your inner creativity will shine. The government is looking for the lowest bid to grant the contract to. So how low can you go? Where can you source the weapons or equipment for the cheapest? Can you find out what your competitors are bidding to get an edge on the competition? Any places you can cut corners without the government noticing? Once you feel you have a pretty solid bid, it's as simple as filling out the form they provide on the contract and emailing it. Let's say you want a contract, great.
Here's a f***ing gold star.
But it doesn't end there because you don't get paid until it's fulfilled. So now it is your duty to make sure that at all costs these contracts get fulfilled. Like any other business, if you develop a good relationship with your customers, in this case the US government, they'll be more likely to award you more contracts in the future.
Great job, boys. Great job.
If you do really bad, especially since you're a war dog that doesn't have the same connections in the government that the big boys have, the government can cancel your contract altogether.
Sir, I need you to work with us a little on this.
Let me get this straight. I'm in the crack in the world defending your freedom, and I gotta work with you shitbags?
If that happens, not only do you lose out on all that money for that contract, you could be screwed for future contracts as well. So needless to say, you have to be prepared to do whatever it takes to fulfill these contracts. And much like David and Ephraim, once you complete your first contract, the US will use the weapons and equipment you provide to do whatever it does, bombing innocent villages, leading US soldiers to their death, whatever. And you simply rinse and repeat and enjoy those sweet wartime profits while others perish. So congratulations, give yourself a pat on the back because in just 4 simple steps, you now have all the tools you need to profit from World War III. But like any other business, it's not all sunshines and rainbows though. Until the US launches another major invasion, World War III is declared, blah blah blah, the governments of the world and their subsequent contracts aren't gonna be as desperate. There won't be as much of a dire life or death demand. They'll keep a closer eye on how well you fulfill the contracts, which of course means less opportunities and less profit for the poor old war dogs like you and I. So if you're watching this right now, you better follow suit with the other big war profiteers and not just pray for war, but push for war. You could think of this video as a part 2 or a more approachable take for the average citizen to profit from war if you happen to have a more flexible sense of morality. Compared to the first video I made on the overall big picture perspective of the business of war, why war is so primal to governments, and what the big war profiteers do, and the kind of money that they make, which pretty much puts everything we went over in this video to shame. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I highly recommend it and will link it below. If you enjoyed this video and learned something from it, all I ask for is 2 things. Put I watched to the end in the comments below to give the YouTube algorithm a nice boost, because I think we can all agree that YouTube isn't gonna push this stuff as much. Doing something as simple as leaving a comment or pressing the like button really does help out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Number 2, just subscribe for more videos like this where we break down past, present, and future businesses just like this one. It's free, you can unsubscribe whenever you want, and you can even dislike and leave me your best hate comments in the future if you want. But perhaps the best part of subscribing is that you're in a way adding 20 to 30 more hours into your week, because that's around how long it takes me to make each video. Free, more time, can it get any better than that? I don't think so, so go ahead and click that red button below, and I promise you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching, you've been awesome, I've been Jake, I'll see you guys in the next one.